isolated. I made up for some of that isolation by staying playing. I played in the Salt River Brass Band with a couple of musicians I really admired, Sam Palafian and Pat Sheridan. Sam was definitely a mentor of mine and someone I respected. He passed a couple years ago, or I think it's a couple years, maybe just a year ago, from brain cancer. But he is a great force in the community and just one of those great mentors that touch so many people's lives. So being able to stay connected to people I admired and music in that way, but like I could feel the music was receding for me a little bit.
Did you have any, because I know, having been through kind of some major pivots in my own life, right? Like there can also be that not fear of letting go of the thing, but thinking, gosh, I invested so much time, energy, money into this endeavor. Now I look at that kind of stuff very differently, and I'm able to let go of some of that stuff. But at that point, was there a little bit of was it easier to kind of fade it out by still staying, having a foot kind of in that world in a different way, but pulling out of it? Was there an awareness of
it felt like kind of like staying in the ensemble for a little bit felt like I was just trying to keep a toe in, and it felt weird, and it felt like a little bit more of a wrench. Like it just kind of stabbed me in the wrong way at that moment. I was like, yeah, this is just reminding me that I'm not doing that.
Yes, right.
And it was too little. Like I felt like I either wanted to be in that or of that, or I needed to just put it aside for a minute and figure out like I needed to allow space for something else.
Yes.
And so that really pushed me to doing a lot of, build my own career coach. I started reading every career coach because mainly I was like, okay, I have all of this stuff that I did and I studied. Like, how can I put this to work in my career? Like, how can I use this to help build instead of feeling like I'm just starting from scratch? Because I put too much work in that to make this like it doesn't count for anything. So what the first real career coaching spark I got was reading a book that is used by so many career coaches, and I think is one of the best. Like, if you're going to read one book that's career coaching, I think you should get this one. It's What Color Is Your Parachute? Right?
I saw the cover. In fact, I have it on my shelf.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Every single career coach does. It's kind of like the Bible of career changing. Right? It's all about figuring out what are those transferable skills. What is it that you're bringing to the table, even if you don't have experience in the thing that you're moving toward. So that was kind of like the beginning of me having an interest in job searches, that basically I had to go through a massive career change and become my own career coach.
Let me interject and ask, since we're all about intuition and wanting to, really help people tune in and tap into that innate sort of gift that we all have, but some people don't realize, when they're hearing it. Were there moments that you were, because I know you're very intuitive as well, but were you aware of that at that time in your life, and what did that look or sound like?
I don't know that that's interesting, because I don't know that I thought at that time that I was very intuitive. One of the things that I started to see right then was I had an understanding that music wasn't necessarily about music for me. I think when you hear a lot of musicians talk about their connection to music, it's about the art, or you know what I mean? But for me, it was about the people. It was about ensemble. It was about connection and communication.
Yes.
And so I started to have a sense that what I wanted to find was something that allowed me to tap into that. Like that was the thing that I was missing. It wasn't the French horn.
Mm-hmm.
As lovely as the instrument is, it was really an ensemble. It was working with the team. So I had a very isolated role, and I knew that the job that I was working, that like me working in an office by myself on the weekend, was the opposite of what I needed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember looking for a job, and I started searching adjectives instead of job titles because I just kept not finding what I was looking for. I just kept getting more of the same.
Right.
So one day I actually searched the word fun. I was like, you know what? I want a company that will actually talk about, like, I need some fun to get through my day. I need motivation. So I need
Right.
people that care about that.
Mm-hmm.
So it seemed like a frivolous thing to search, but it was something that was really core. I'm like, I'm a silly person that needs to have fun in my day.
Yeah.
So I I found a startup, a job board that was looking for somebody to be like their admin assistant, but also answer the job seeker help desk questions. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I thought that sounded amazing. I was like, I can talk to people, I can interact with them. And it was so cool to go into a startup culture that felt collegial. It felt like that environment that I was used to and that I loved,
Mm-hmm.
of young people energy and spending way too spending way too much time at work probably. But
Right. Well, and you were younger, so you had lots and lots of energy, right?
I had nothing but time and
Uh-huh.
energy to give, so it was a good time to be at a startup, right?
Yeah. Well, and
it,
how awesome is that you were pulled, drawn, magnetized to a job board, like a company that literally helps people find jobs, and that's really what your biggest question was, like, well, what is next for me? What am I
right.
supposed to be doing? And yeah, so that's lovely.
Yeah, I thought, well, if I want to explore the world of work, like what better place to do it? I was like, if nothing else, this is going to be a good launch pad.
Mm-hmm.
Right. This is a good place to go figure some stuff out. And it ended up being that in spades. I met a wonderful mentor. My boss, Rebecca, is forever going to be my example of, tell me about your best boss. She was just an amazing teacher on so many levels of what it meant to be a professional, of what it meant to be a good manager, a good leader, and what it meant to really connect with other people.
And how did she embody that? What were some of the qualities or ways of being that, you would look at her and go, God, I want some of that. Like, obviously we're drawn to those people because we want more of that for ourselves. So what were some of those qualities that she embodied?
Well, one of them was that she always gave people the benefit of the doubt.
Mm.
She assumed good intent, which as a person with, at that time, undiagnosed anxiety problems, that was a really hard thing for me to do. And I didn't realize how it sabotaged my relationships with people to not assume that somebody was trying their best and you know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
because it was just anxiety going, oh, they must think that you're incompetent, or they must think that you're dumb, or they must, that's kind of liar in my head was
Mm-hmm.
going full tilt. And so to see somebody that had this thing, she just had this complete compass of oh, this person that I'm talking to that works for me is absolutely trying their very best to get this done. And so, like, we always felt like she had our back, like she was always there to help us. And that level of just like constant there for support, constant rock, just that absolute complete trust that I had in her, that she was able to instill through that, was probably one of the greatest lessons I've learned in my career.
Well, and just to acknowledge, like, that's who you are. Like,
Oh,
when you were describing, the anxious you with those thoughts and, making up stories in your mind about what people were thinking or
mm-hmm.
intentions and what, I don't know that version of you. I've never known that
Mm.
version of you. So you've come a long way, baby.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's some hard one, and back to that, I didn't know which dragons I was fighting. I was so attracted to that, I think, because it was really a constant daily struggle that
Mm-hmm.
hadn't acknowledged at that point in my life that I was
Yeah.
fighting.
So how long were you at jobbing and then what? Jobbing is what led you to ASU, right?
Yeah, I was jobbing for 6.5 years. And during that time, I kind of rose from being an admin assistant to being the director of job seeker experience. So I was overseeing like all kinds of things that were job seeker facing. And
so what did that look like? What were some of the things that you built or that emerged from, during your transition from this to this extraordinary role?
Well, like I did a little bit of IT project management around things that faced the job seeker portion of the business, because there's a huge part of the business, the part that actually generated revenue was facing the employers, because that's where the money comes from. They weren't charging job seekers for anything, so it was a really interesting thing to like own the part of the process that could be seen as like a cost center. But like I had the wonderful privilege of them understanding that really engaging job seekers is like that was what the employers were paying for.
Came for it, right? So just explain for people who don't know jobbing, or at least at that point, who knows what iteration their business is in at this point. But so at that point, it was a job board. The employers paid to be on there and promote their jobs, but there was no business model revenue generation going on the candidate side.
Correct.
Obviously, what you said, what the employers are paying for.
Yeah, except for then we got to a point where Lehman Brothers happened, and all of a sudden we were in a mass unemployment event. We went from having, we had the nation's largest career fairs in our local market, so we were locally focused. That was our niche. We only had job boards in places where we had offices, so that meant a huge real estate investment was made, and because the housing market fell, that real estate, like having all those leases at all of those different locations, was a real part of why we had to go from like 500 employees down to 50. So I had made it from like being employee number 70 all the way up to 500 and then back down to 50. So it was a crazy time.
Well, and so just to put a pin in, or a little just like, an asterisk, what an amazing thing for you to experience for future Karen who's coaching clients, right? Like, hey, I've been through total growth and then boom, knocking all the dominoes down and bringing it all back to basics. So that's an incredible thing that that's like foreshadowing, right, in storytelling. So like you didn't know at the time that you were being set up to have more empathy, to have more awareness, understanding, compassion, and also what it takes to then pick yourself back up and move along down the road.
Well, and I was helping all of these friends of mine that were losing their jobs. I was helping them get settled in new places and do their job search. And also we had launched an outplacing product at that time, which was companies that were laying people off. They weren't hiring. So we had to try to find something to sell them, right? So then we were selling outplacement services. So I was acting as a career coach for the first time through that. And, I had spent a lot of time communicating with career coaches through my kind of community relations piece of helping, our community relations team being able to engage with career services in their different local markets to reach job seekers, right? And to provide them with resources as well. So like I'd seen these people and I knew they were my people. And then I engaged in a practice that I still recommend to my clients today. I had an informational interview with Carey Sanderson.
Oh, God bless the informational interviews. I'm still a huge fan. I always was a fan.
And she was a wonderful career coach to me.
So let's explain what the informational interview is, and then, about your informational interview with Carey and where that led you on your path.
Yeah. So an informational interview isn't like a normal, like a job interview. It's where you're going to have a conversation with someone, not to get a job, but to ask them about some aspect of their work. So it can be about the type of role that they're doing if you want to make a change into that type of role, or it can be like, I've never worked for that big organization that you work in. What's it like to work at X? What does that company value? What are they looking for for in candidates? What's been your experience there? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it?
Which is so important. People always forget. They're like, I remember when we were coaching all these MBAs, I need to go work at Apple and Amazon. I'm like, do you know?
Yep.
What have you talked to people that work there? Like, it could be for you, but it might not be for you.
Yeah, like think about it. Like people would come to us and they would say, "Oh, I really want to work for this company," and we would know their personality, and we'd
Right.
be like, I don't think you know the person, because we knew the personality mismatch was there. Like people that wanted to work for